This What's Working with Cam Marston podcast is brought to you courtesy of Michelob Ultra Beer.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Welcome to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is the radio show and podcast featuring the workplace, the workforce, and the marketplace trends shaping the state of Alabama. We try to find guests, people, educators this week, who can talk to us about the trends that are influencing the workplace in ways that'll make each of us a little bit better at whatever it is we do. Maybe there's something they say, an idea that they pass along that we can apply to our own world, and that's the goal of What's Working with Cam Marston. Thank you so much for listening. I'm glad you're along for the ride. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, housed in the Culverhouse College of Business, all housed at the University of Alabama. This week here in October is the first of what I hope becomes a long relationship with Business Alabama magazine, where we take one of the stories from their magazine, their publication, and go a little bit deeper with the guests that they interview. And that's exactly what we're going to do on the other side of this break. The magazine is the October issue. Perhaps that's obvious, the October issue. And we go into an article called Where Eagles Soar, written by Alec Harvey. And it's about the Auburn University School of Aviation, its background, its history. And most interesting to me, for the purposes of a workplace show, is the opportunities presented by these students upon their graduation. It's really quite remarkable. In a moment, I'll have James Birdsong and Jim Witte, who are two professors there and kind of run the show at the School of Aviation, to talk to us a little bit about the background of the school and what it is that they're doing with these students and the opportunities that are presented to the students upon their graduation. I didn't know this was even out there. Perhaps shame on me. I didn't even know that this was out there. And after having read the article and speaking to these gentlemen in anticipation of this interview, I'm really proud of what they're doing for the state of Alabama. It's really impressive. So when we come back from break, you'll meet James Birdsong, you'll meet Jim Witte, professors at the Auburn University School of Aviation. Get prepared for what I think you'll find is a wonderfully informative interview. Again, you can learn more about this, and I want to make sure we're talking about Business Alabama. It's the state's only statewide business publication. If you want to know what's going on in the state of Alabama, I want you to go find Business Alabama magazine. You can find them quickly online by entering Business Alabama in your search bar, and you'll pull that thing up. I subscribe to it. I go through it page by page every month to see what's going on out there. It informs me to help me interview people on the show, and as well as it gives me ideas of who I should reach out to for an interview. If you like what you hear on this program, I want you to find the podcast. You can find it at what'sworkingcam.com and forward this on to somebody you feel like needs to know about this show. You can find me on social media. Just enter Cam Marston or perhaps Cam Marston and the number 1. Follow us, pin us, post us, tweet us, paste us, whatever, and keep up with the show as we do different things. Thank you for listening again. When we come back from break, we'll have Witte and Birdsong as they refer to each other. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, housed in the Culverhouse College of Business, all housed at the University of Alabama.
I'm Paul Lewis, General Manager for Lewis Construction. Many of our commercial buildings you drive by daily on both sides of the bay are the fruits of our client relationship since our beginning in the early 80s. It is our mission to bring value to our clients, from retrofits to ground-up construction and everything in between. We have more advocates than any of our competitors who have been in business twice as long. Same with repeat business, same with referrals. Find us online at roylewisconstruction.com and let's talk about your next commercial project.
We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, housed in the Culver House College of Business, all housed at the University of Alabama. And today with this show, it's the first time that we begin the collaboration with Business Alabama magazine. The goal is to take one of their interviews, one of their stories in their magazine, and go a little bit deeper with the people who they talk to. This month, the October issue is in my hands as I speak, and the article is entitled Where Eagles Soar, a very clever title by Alec Harvey. And we're going to jump into this with the two gentlemen featured in this article. On the line with me, James Birdsong, his bio real quick. Both of these gentlemen have significant bios. I'm only going to touch on some of them and try to drop in a little bit as we go along. James Birdsong serves as Aviation Program Coordinator, where he's responsible for all facets of the University of Auburn's aviation program, to include teaching, research, and outreach. In addition to his administrative role, he also teaches junior and senior level aviation economics and global aviation courses. James Birdsong, thank you for your time. Welcome to What's Working.
Hey, thank you, Cam. Appreciate it.
And on the heels is Jim Witte, a professor of aviation management, a career Army officer and pilot. Witte has over 60 years of experience in military and civilian rotor wing and fixed wing aircraft, and holds an airframe mechanic certificate as well as being an FAA certified drone pilot. Jim Witte, thank you for your time. Welcome to What's Working.
Thanks, Cam. Pleasure to be with you.
As I looked through this article about the Auburn University School of Aviation, what I didn't see, and I'm curious about, is when it began and why. I'm curious what the origination of the School of Aviation at Auburn is about. Where and why? Who can help me out with that one?
Well, I'm going to listen to what Dr. Birdsong has to tell us because he's actually been part of the school longer than I have.
James Birdsong, over to you.
Yeah. Hey, Cam. So this is James Birdsong. So Auburn University Aviation, it can trace its roots all the way back to the Wright brothers, who established their first flight school here in the state of Alabama in 1910. They actually visited Auburn University in 1907 and made some contacts here in the College of Engineering, or what was then Alabama Polytechnical Institute, today the College of Engineering part of that. But their first flight school was actually in Montgomery, and which is the site of Maxwell Air Force Base now. But that planted the early seeds of aviation, and we started teaching some aerospace administration courses here in the 1920s, and the program went upscale in 1938 as it joined the Civilian Pilot Training Program, which was a national program to train pilots for the World War II effort. The university purchased what is now the Auburn University Regional Airport for $375 in 1939, and has owned that airport ever since. And that is home of Auburn Aviation. They trained about 1,100 pilots here for the World War II effort as part of the Civilian Pilot Training Program. And interestingly enough, Tuskegee Institute, now Tuskegee University, just down the road from us, about 15 miles, was also part of that Civilian Pilot Training Program. So there's a lot of rich history here. That's where Auburn University got its start, was that Civilian Pilot Training Program, and the aviation program grew out of that after World War II, and it's morphed into 2 degrees today, housed in the College of Liberal Arts. And so we've moved from engineering to business to liberal arts, and that's basically accommodated the growth in the program and the changes in the industry over the years.
Tell me about the students. Tell me what they're looking to learn in coming to you to learn how to be a pilot or learn the aviation management program. Who are they? Do they have a common background that's driving them into your department?
This is Jim Witte. I'd like to take that one on. Our students come from a wide variety of backgrounds. Actually, we a very high percentage of our students come from flying families. The parents may be commercial or private pilots, so they've been around aviation. We also have those that have never flown before, who walk in and say, I understand what pilots do and I want to be one. Probably the thing that sets us off the most is the idea that our students arrive here committed to learning how to fly or committed to the management aspects of aviation. So we really have a two-pronged sword here. It's our two-edged sword. One on the flight side, the other on the management side. And to give you an idea of how dedicated these people are coming in, our first year attrition is roughly 4% of those who've applied. Now, that is a very, very small percentage of people who leave the program for other endeavors.
4% is remarkable. You're right about that. I know you know that 4% attrition is really good. So they're coming in devoted, dedicated.
Very much so. And this has encouraged us to continue our outreach efforts where we begin to recruit in the high school level. We spend a lot of time with our service organizations here of student pilots visiting high schools and bringing the aviation message to people who may never have been aware of it before or never had it really on their radar as a possible career choice. So there's a great deal of salesmanship takes place in any aviation program.
I find it interesting that so many of your students have aviation parents, that they've had a connection with it. My experience with aviation being very limited, I suspect most of the listeners are similar to mine, and that is in commercial airlines. How much of that, the mystique of being an airline pilot, is influencing the students who are coming in to join your program?
Well, this is James, and Cam, I think a lot of the students, the thing about aviation students is they know usually at an early age if they've kind of latched on, if they've had some experience, either flying with family members or again, maybe an outreach, getting to an air show, something like that, getting up close. But I think there's this passion that they develop. Kind of joke about, it's almost like a disease you get, and you can't get rid of it once you've had a taste of aviation. And so yeah, there's definitely a mystique to it. We also joke that some of us that have come through the military side, back in the 80s, you had Top Gun. You got Top Gun 2 this year. It's kind of funny how it's re-energized people's affair with aviation. Good aviation movies, but. Yeah, there's definitely a mystique. I think, people like to travel. They like adventure. And this is a career where you can, do both. And certainly the opportunities are immense right now as well. So
I want to talk about the opportunities for the students on the other side of their formal education through the Auburn program. I want to hold off on that a little bit and talk a little bit about what's necessary for these students to go through the program. Is it what are other than literally flying the plane? Is there a core curriculum that's required of them that is unique to your program?
This is Jim here. Cam, before we look at the core curriculum, let's look at the three things that anyone needs to complete an aviation program successfully.
Great.
The first thing you need to do is develop skill. Now, that's handling the aircraft, takeoff, landing, maneuvers in the sky. That's skill. The next thing you need is education or learning. And this is the combination of where you're flying, how the aircraft works, all of that academic background that contributes to being a pilot. The third thing, and probably the most important thing, is your attitude coming through school. We run a very, very rigid schedule, as most flight schools are, but you may have to give up a fraternity or sorority meeting because you're booked for a flight that day or that evening. And it's a program that really requires focus and in some cases sacrifice, personal time, social time, in order to maintain the skills and knowledge that you need in order to be successful. So attitude plays a very strong role in any aviation program.
Is there a weeding out process where, and you mentioned the 4% attrition, but let's say prior to coming into your program, is there a weeding out process where you have a conversation and say, for you to do this before you enroll or enlist or whatever the term may be, but if you want to do this, you need to know this is the way it's going to work. And if you're not absolutely thoroughly dedicated to this and being willing to miss a fraternity or sorority function from time to time, you don't need to be here. Is there a kind of a, what I would call a come to Jesus talk prior to the first class that tells people what they can expect?
Yes, sir. We have this is Jim again. We have a mandatory meeting of all new freshmen coming in. Included in that meeting is our flight instructor. So it's a very large group. And as a matter of fact, this semester we had to do it in 2 different sessions. But in that orientation/safety session, various representatives of the program will address the incoming students. And they will lay down, this is the expectation. They're very, very high expectations. This is what you do if you have a problem. This is where you go to help you succeed in the program. So you don't just bring them in and throw them to the wolves. You bring them into a supportive environment whose common goal is to produce a professional aviator.
Very interesting. I want to hear more about that meeting when we come back from break. I also want to talk about what job opportunities are available to these students upon graduation. From what I read in the article, it's quite a market of plentiful opportunity for those that come out, yet there's some work that needs to be done on the other side of that graduation. We'll talk about that when we come back. This is What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate House in the Culver House College of Business, University of Alabama. This is our first of our monthly collaboration with Business Alabama Magazine, which is the Alabama's only statewide business publication. If you want to know what's going on in the business world in the state of Alabama, find Business Alabama Magazine, find them online. We'll be right back after this break. I'm on the line with James Birdsong and Jim Witte, professors at the Auburn University School of Education.
You're in business to make money. At United Bank, we're in business to help you manage it. We offer a full line of financial solutions, including business credit cards, business checking, merchant services, and more. We'll work with you to create a bundle of services that fits your business needs. Learn more about how we can help your business grow at unitedbank.com/CAM. Member FDIC. Credit card subject to credit approval.
We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. On the line with me, James Birdsong, aviation professor at Auburn University School of Aviation, as well as Jim Witte, who is also aviation professor, Auburn University School of Aviation. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, Culver House College of Business, University of Alabama. And this is our first of what I hope becomes many collaborative efforts with Business Alabama Magazine, the only statewide business publication where we go deep with a couple of the people that are interviewed in the magazine. What we're specifically talking about today is the October 2022 edition of Business Alabama, an article by Alec Harvey called Where Eagles Soar. These two gentlemen on the line with me are training, teaching, instructing young college students on how to become pilots. And we were, prior to break, gentlemen, we were talking a little bit about the business opportunities of somebody with a pilot's license out of your school. I think it was James Birdsong. You were going to talk to me about what that looks like once they've graduated.
You bet, Cam. This is James. And so the opportunities for students are immense right now. On the flight side, also we have the management side of the house too. But on the flight side right now, essentially half of all airline pilots are going to hit a mandatory retirement age of 65 in the next 15 years. And so, when you talk about a workforce that's a little less than about 100,000 pilots, Part 121 carrier pilots, they call them. Those are your cargo and your passenger airlines. But about half of that workforce, roughly, will hit retirement age in the next 15 years. So students coming out of this program have the opportunity once they meet the minimum flight hours required, which for most students is going to be 1,000 flight hours, they'll start at the regional airlines, the smaller airlines, if you will, kind of like the minor league baseball team. And then after a couple of years, they'll move up to the majors, much like Major League Baseball, and they'll get that call and they'll work at, the majors such as Delta, United, Southwest, and American Airlines. And so, or, they can go on to FedEx as well, or UPS. There's just, everybody's hiring right now. And so the number of retirements plus COVID kind of accelerated that, because a lot of folks in the industry took early retirements, not knowing what COVID would look like on the backside. And again, the most recent large downturn in the industry was post 9/11 and then the recession of 08-09 timeframe. So, so certainly, folks that were close to retirement went ahead and went out while the getting was good. And but now we're in a situation to where we've recovered quickly from COVID as an industry and rebounded, and demand is back to where it was prior to COVID. We just have a lot fewer pilots, and we're also facing a large workforce retirement. So like I said, lots of great opportunities on the pilot side, and the same thing on the management side. The numbers aren't quite as big, but again, a lot of the management side of the airlines are, kind of senior folks as well. So we've had a lot of young professionals recently graduate that are quickly moving up the career ladders at different airlines, working in operations management, revenue management. So it's a good time to enter aviation as a young person.
So a couple of questions here. How many flight hours will one of your students graduate with at graduation?
They typically graduate, and Cam, this is James, they typically graduate with around 350 flight hours that they'll get here at Auburn. Now, we do get some students that will come in that already have a certificate, a private certificate. Those students, if they come in with, 100 flight hours, obviously would graduate with a little more than 350, but 350 is a safe number for most. And so they have to get to 1,000 hours to be eligible as a restricted ATP graduate. That's code for essentially your learner's permit airline pilot license. That's what they have to get. And so they are then authorized to, or they're eligible to work at the airlines once they have those flight hours and take the test. And so that typically takes about a year, about 12 to 18 months after they graduate.
That was my question.
At the airlines.
Yeah. How long does it take to get those additional 750 hours? About a year to 18 months, huh?
About 12 to 18 months. And most will do it here at Auburn as a flight instructor. And so they'll graduate, they'll have their flight instructor certificates. And so they'll turn around and they'll teach in the schoolhouse here. Much like actually the military does the same thing. They always hold back, a certain number of students to become instructors, and that's how you build your experience and time. And so, giving flight instruction is, teaching somebody to learn to fly, communicate, make that decision that, hey, this person is ready to solo today, and then crawl out of the airplane and step back and watch your student take off and go solo is a pretty big, it's a pretty big judgment call, right? And so, the skills, decision-making, the assessment that these folks, young students or young pilots develop as flight instructors is going to be really beneficial to their career at the airlines, because ultimately, we know they can fly, but we need to make sure, they're smart, they process information, they're really good at that. And so, yeah, it's a fast process.
Tell me what.
Cam,
yes, sir.
This is Jim again. Just a quick sidebar on that. And I am a big advocate of using our own graduates as flight instructors. Now, the reason behind that is you will never learn a subject as well as you do when you teach it. And we're able to really generate very experienced, very knowledgeable students to go into the feeder airlines or even into the majors. So there's not just a convenience to this, but there's a real strong educational philosophy behind it.
I see from your background here, Jim, that you have a long, this is in your bio, a long background in training and development of many different things. You got a master's degree from William and Mary, PhD, University of South Florida. Do you consider yourself a pilot or an educator pilot?
I consider myself an educator of pilots. How's that?
Oh, very good.
And that it's actually, I've got a strong academic background in adult education, and no place is that finer than in a flight school. Our students are adults for all practical purposes. They respond to the philosophies of adult education, sometimes when they don't even know what the philosophies are.
Yeah,
and that's okay. They're performing. There's far much more in the aviation genre of learning and performing than many. It's like going to medical school. If you go to medical school, they teach you how to do brain surgery. Well, if you never look at a cranium, then you're not really living up to what you're supposed to be doing. So you can't readily separate education from flying. They really go hand in hand.
Tell me about, Jim, your students. We mentioned the common background of so many of them as pilots in their background, family members. What more can you tell me about them? Are they more from the cities across Alabama or other places? Auburn is known today, as is Alabama, for a large number of out-of-state students. Do you see more out-of-state students wanting to do this due to the power of your program? Is it more biased male versus female? Tell me a little bit about those students.
Well, and you're right. We have a very high percentage of out-of-state students. And we have students who, for their own personal reasons, will actually leave flight programs in other states to come to Auburn. Now, we like to credit that to the Auburn family and the Auburn way of life here. This is a great place to learn. And no matter what your discipline, we attract people from other locations than Auburn. Now, the benefit ends up benefiting Alabama. We have a strong aviation industry here. Now, that pertains to our managers, etc. If we're going to fly, obviously, we may be based out of Chicago or based out of Atlanta. And for all practical purposes, the graduate there is serving out of state. But the aviation industry is not just restricted regionally. It has a very, very large region called the world.
Yeah.
So we're really preparing students to enter into a worldwide occupation.
Is the demands for the aviation industry growing? It would seem that it would be, based on everything I see about world development, economies, et cetera, notwithstanding the retirements that you mentioned a moment ago that James Birdsong mentioned. What about the industry itself?
Cam, this is James. And so the industry itself is growing. The airlines, typically 4 to 5% growth year over year is fairly normal. Obviously, the larger economy is going to drive that. And unfortunately, the airlines sometimes, may get caught in the downdraft of the economy. And it's a very rigid business model in the sense, again, it requires a lot of investment up front, high barriers to entry, costs a lot to start an airline, to run an airline. Certainly fuel prices and labor are basically your number one and number two cost of running an airline. And right now you're looking at, high fuel cost and, labor's not getting any cheaper with inflation. And so, the expectation. So there's a lot of pressure there on the airlines, but, amazingly, they continue to grow. And when you look at the population in the United States and how we've grown, since I was in high school. I mean, I think we back in the 80s had around 220 million Americans. Today, I believe it's closer to around 330 million. So we're going to continue to grow as a country, and that's going to create travel opportunities. So there'll be continued growth in the industry. There's always pressures, but smart folks figured out they make it work, and it's very interesting to see the dynamics, the shifts that occurred as a result of COVID. Because again, there's a lot of the international travel closed for a bit. It still hasn't really reopened in the Asia Pacific region in terms of large numbers of international travel. But, airlines have shifted. Montrose, Colorado, for instance, became one of the most popular destinations during COVID. Kalispell, Montana, some others, places that didn't have a lot of air service before, but now, have a lot. And, so they'll shift their resources to where demand is. And the reason they went there is because a lot of outdoor activities and people were, they could go outside, but they couldn't leave the country. Right. So, trying to figure out, so the airlines, they'll adapt, they'll continue to grow. But yeah, I see continued growth in the industry as a result of people wanting to travel, certainly faster than cars. And I think you're going to see more and more growth at airports, that we've witnessed here in the state of Alabama.
They're certainly building on to every airport I've been into recently. They're all at least look like they're growing with the way the building's going on there. When we come back from break, I want to talk a little bit more about the students as well. The last flight I was on, 2 young ladies stepped out of the cockpit. It was the first time I'd seen 2 what appeared to be children. That's more reflective of my age than theirs. And they looked down the aisle of the plane and said, "We're going to be taking you to Atlanta." And I went, "Oh my goodness, they are nearly the age of my daughter." And I assume someone has qualified them to be in this airplane, and et cetera, et cetera. It's like every time I jump in a cab, I don't ask the driver to see his driver's license or his or her driver's license. But it was a fine flight. Obviously, nothing happened, but it kind of took me back a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about these students and whether you're seeing a rise in male versus female, anything like that may be similar to other industries. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. We'll be back after this break. This is the first of our Business Alabama collaborative effort to go deep into one of the articles from the Business Alabama magazine, the state's only statewide business publication. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, Culverhouse College of Business, University of Alabama.
At Roy Lewis Construction, we're in the business of adding value. Whether it's working with you to meet your unique business needs or making investments in our community in lasting ways, providing unparalleled value and quality in every commercial construction project. When planning your next commercial project, reach out to Roy Lewis Construction. We'll pair you with a designer that best suits your project needs and work with that designer to balance the best architectural outcome with the best budget outcome. Find us online at roylewisconstruction.com, building legacies one relationship at a time.
Customer service never goes out of style. In fact, I think it's safe to say that customer service is more valuable and more important now more than ever. Hi, this is Cam Marston. One thing that my over 200 episodes of What's Working has taught me is how important customer service is to building and maintaining a thriving business. It's the growing need for customer service that's led me to partner with one of the state's leading customer service trainers to create our program called Delivering 5-Star Customer Service. Your team will get one 90-minute training session per month for 6 consecutive months. Each session builds on the skills learned the previous month, allowing your customer-facing teams to practice before moving on to the next lesson. And the 6 lessons address everything from appearance to electronic communications to conflict resolution to maintaining a service mindset. Our program travels and is delivered in person at your workplace, nothing virtual. You simply can't practice the level of the skills this course teaches virtually. For more information, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's schedule a time to talk. Remember, you have less to fear from outside competition than you do from discourtesy and bad service from inside your own company. Again, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's talk about your business. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston on the line with Jim Witte, Professor, Aviation Management, Auburn University School of Aviation, as well as James Birdsong, same Aviation Program Coordinator, Auburn University School of Aviation. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the Culverhouse College of Business at the University of Alabama. And this is the first, as I've said before, of our collaborative efforts with Business Alabama magazine, which is the state of Alabama's only statewide business publication, where we go deep into one of the articles. And what I'm talking about here is the October 2022 magazine and an article called Where Eagles Soar by Alec Harvey. Before the break, we were talking a little bit, gentlemen, about the student body that makes up the pilots that you all are training, and I'd like to hear more about them. We're seeing the movement, and I was watching a video about this yesterday, of roles traditionally held by males. The women are coming in, the females are coming in and assuming some of those roles, and we as a society are rightfully celebrating this kind of breaking of the ceiling, whatever you call it. I'm curious, gentlemen, are you seeing that in the Auburn University School of Aviation, a female landing on your campus, and whereas previously perhaps there were many fewer?
This is Jim. I'd like to pick up on that because in our school, I'm working with female students and female instructors every day. I don't see that it's a big thing. It's just part of the normal way we do business. Now, when I step back and look at the industry, there's only about 5% of our flight deck personnel, that's pilot and first officer, who are female. I come back to the school and I find that 16%, over 3 times the national average, are female pilots. So the school itself is making a definite impact on the industry. Another thing where you see this visibility of female contributors. I have an advisory board here at the school. I have an advisory board from industry, but I also have a student advisory board. They report directly to me as the director. Now, that's fairly unique. My board is not by actual count, but by really volunteer, is pretty much half and half, male and female. Now, these people have a direct line to make a difference within the school. They take their role very, very seriously. They're very, very oriented to each other. It's a strong team. And there's no reference to who's the female, who's the male, blah, blah. It's a matter of what skills do you bring to the table. Mm-hmm. And that is recognized here. It's applauded here. And there's a difference that we're making. So the thing is, you start out with a strong, underrepresented population, and you simply make them stronger. That's the easy part.
I applaud you for your work, and I appreciate that. James Birdsong, anything to add?
Yeah, well, we just this is James, and again, we have a lot of student organizations here that support. Women in Aviation is a large international organization. We have a War Eagle chapter here. The students host a lot of outreach events, and actually this weekend they're hosting Girls in Aviation Day here at Auburn University Regional Airport. That's an annual event, but Endeavor Airlines, which is owned by Delta, that's Delta's regionals, bringing a jet in. So for instance, these the students here, they'll host these types of events and then turn around and kind of pay it forward to the next generation, hoping to interest, use aviation to interest young folks in STEM-related careers, again, aviation careers. But we have a lot of student organizations, and the students are extremely energetic, positive, upbeat. They love getting out. The thing you'll find is people that are in aviation love talking about it. They love, connecting others with it. And so I would say that's, kind of the secret sauce perhaps behind some of the growth and, again, some of the opportunities that, some of these young ladies may see that end up coming here as students. And so it's exciting to watch.
Jim Witte, on the horizon, I notice in your bio that you are an FAA certified drone pilot. Tell me about that. Is that what's next?
Well, I kind of got forced into that, Cam. I started flying in 1957. And in 1957, drone was not even in our vocabulary.
Yeah.
So I moved into the flight school, and I find that under the leadership of Earl Thompson, we have an extremely active drone program. So I signed myself up for classes and sat there and was lectured to and taught how to do things. And I took an FAA examination, and suddenly I'm a commercial drone pilot. It was fascinating. I mean, I'm far beyond the school age student, and just fell into it. Part of it is I can identify with the industry now. We're preparing drone pilots here for fire protection, for firefighting, agriculture, construction, police work. And the list goes on and on. The jobs available grow daily. Now, what do you want to do to make a living? Gee, you've got a Part 107 drone pilot's license, and if you have the flying skill to support that, you can make a living for your family. It was unheard of 10 years ago.
No kidding. So let's assume I go and order a drone off of Amazon. I don't need to be an FAA certified drone pilot to run that thing. What's the difference? What are we talking about? A much larger item here? Tell me what I don't understand.
I'm talking about a drone that weighs around 50 pounds.
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought. Bigger.
So we're not talking the kind of, $39 drone that has a dry cell battery and you fly it around the room. No, sir. We're talking about extended flying, camera mounted. How do you grid line a field? In other words, in order to take your measurements on a field or survey the field properly, it's a skill. It's a learned and acquired skill.
Gentlemen, this has been fascinating. I am delighted to know that you're out there. I'm delighted to know that Auburn University is such an influencer in the industry. Industry-wide is what you made it sound like about the aviation program there. I'm proud of you and what you do. I'm grateful for what you do for our state. If someone is listening right now and they're interested in learning more, perhaps they have a son or daughter that may be interested in learning more, how can they find you?
Well, the easy way, Cam, again, this is James, is find us online there at, just Google Auburn Aviation. It'll take you to our School of Aviation webpage. It's, and then from there, essentially, there's information available about the 2 degrees as well as all our contact information. We do offer tours on most Fridays throughout the school year. You can sign up there. We have a lot of high school prospective students come visit us every Friday from literally all over the country, but easy drive here in Alabama. And then for those that are interested in maybe coming to spend a week with us during the summer, we offer summer youth programs. We do 2 week-long resident camps. And so essentially those are designed to help students learn about all the different careers in aviation, not just flying. They will get to fly, but also learn about the many other exciting careers in aviation. So yeah, lots of opportunities to get plugged in, but just find us on the Auburn website, Auburn Aviation.
James Birdsong. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, this is Jim again. I want to point out when Dr. Birdsong talks about tours, we run about 1,000 individuals a year touring our program here at Auburn. So when we talk about a growing active program, that's evidenced by the people who just come by to check us out.
No kidding.
The general public is absolutely welcome. If you have a family member that is interested, bring them along. This is what we're about.
I appreciate it. Jim Witte, Professor Aviation Management, Auburn University School of Aviation, as well as James Birdsong the same. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. This has been wonderful.
Well, thank you, Cam.
Cam, thank you very much.
We'll be back after this break. You're listening to What's Working for segment 5. We'll recap the show and talk to you about what's coming up next week. You're listening to What's Working, brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the Culver House College of Business at the University of Alabama.
This is Bill Wasden, labor and employment attorney at Burr and Foreman. With offices across Alabama, our attorneys are keenly aware of employment situations in a state with under 3% unemployment. Employers have faced many obstacles over the last 2 years, and new processes and policies must be in place to ensure you're setting clear expectations for your employees. We've created a list of the top 5 legal and operating issues facing employers in 2022 that will, ultimately, ensure your company is prepared for a data breach, the Great Resignation, new presidential executive orders, or potential overtime rule changes. Reach out to me at bwasden@burr.com, that's BURR.com, or my partner Katie Willis, kwillis@burr.com for this information. Burr attorneys are here to help you with your labor and employment law needs.
No representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
You're in business to make money. At United Bank, we're in business to help you manage it. We offer a full line of financial solutions including business credit cards, business checking, merchant services, and more. We'll work with you to create a bundle of services that fits your business needs. Learn more about how we can help your business grow at unitedbank.com/CAM. Member FDIC. Credit card subject to credit approval.
Hey, this is T. Bruce McKinnon. I'm the president and CEO of Elevator World and Bay Business News. And when I'm not traveling the world, looking over elevators or trying to find news for the local business community, I'm listening to What's Working with Cam Marston. Now back to the show.
I think it was James Birdsong some point in the interview said that when you get a bunch of pilots together, aviation people together, something like that, he said, they love to talk about it. And I found these people. You have found these people too. I find it the case with campers, overnight campers. They love to talk about camping equipment and boots and hiking boots and tents and how much their tent weighs compared to their sleeping bag, all kinds of stuff. You find these people who have these extraordinary passions for the details of what they do, and you can't help but get caught up in it. And that's what just happened to me. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. We're back, brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, Culverhouse College of Business, University of Alabama. This is our show that's a collaboration with Business Alabama Magazine, the state's only statewide business publication. And we're going deep in one of the articles, the October issue. The article is called Where Eagles Soar, a wonderful play on words. Kudos to Alec Harvey, the article's author, for that pithy comment there. But I had no idea that this whole world at Auburn University School of Aviation existed. I had no idea the influence that it has in the industry. I had read things about the pilot retirement that I think it was Birdsong mentioned, and this great silver tsunami, if you will, 65 years old, and so many of them are leaving. I had heard about that and the worries about the replacements. Where are we going to find these replacements? I've heard talk of, hey, 65 today ain't what it used to be, and maybe we should push the retirement age up to 68 or something and give people more time to move in, whatever it may be. I'm proud of Auburn University and their professors and their students for doing what they're doing to help solve the problem, while at the same time giving these young students great opportunities. This tour of their facilities sounds like something that, as I'm going to Atlanta the next time from Mobile, I can tell my family, hey, we're going to stop here and take a look and see what it's all about. Anyway, special thanks to James Birdsong and Jim Witte for their time on the show today. And I'm looking forward to this collaboration with Business Alabama Magazine. Go find Business Alabama. If you don't subscribe and you feel like you want to know what's going on around here, Business Alabama will be the place to go. You can find the show as a podcast at whatsworkingcam.com. And at that website, you can email me directly about show ideas, feedback that you have, etc. I'm always eager for your feedback and your ideas, particularly if you have someone else you want to suggest. So often the referrals to show ideas are just blatant self-promotion, and I show them around and we laugh. What's Working is produced by John Thompson with Ion Digital. Every time I say that is a day he can't drink beer on Horn Island, and I'm okay with that. Have a good week, everybody. We'll have another show next week. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate.